Now, the first time I brought out this concept, I remember somebody sitting there in Zoom land, and I said, does anybody have any questions? Everybody, because I left it kind of there. And she said, yeah, I got something to say. I feel like everything you've taught us up to this point is all wrong now. No, this is not the goal. It's not all wrong. All these things are valid. It's to make the point. And it's always been there this way. I have a theory that everything that we teach to some degree is something that you do naturally in your life without thinking. And when you examine the way that you interact and communicate with people in situations outside of selling or where there's high conflict, you tend to do some of the things that we teach, and that is what allows you to connect the dots and have permission to do it in selling situations. And it's not do the opposite, but it's to be open to that opposite. But there is a line. There is a line where you have to take control. And the line is very simple and very clear. You cannot allow prospects to hurt themselves. In other words, I can give a lot of control to people. I can give a lot of freedom in decision making. I can roll with certain things. But if they're about to do something that works against them, I'm going to stop them with the equivalency of my best friend about to shoot heroin. Sitting there with the needle going, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And you go, no, no, no. You punch them in the face, you kick them, you yell at them, you do all these things. That is the level. Everything is off the table. You cannot allow a prospect to hurt themselves. And that means it may not be the best decision for you. You may not get benefit from that, but you need to stop them from making bad decisions. So that's the line. So if you're going to experiment with this philosophy, then experiment to the point where you go, ooh, yeah, that's too far. I got to step in and correct something. I have to take control to this point because I don't want them to do something stupid. But I'll leave a leash out there until they get that far, and then it's okay. Now, tactically, all the tactics that you've learned are all actually about giving control. But we don't see them as give control. We see them as the opposite when we first learn them as take control. So here's 3, the curiosity curve. Asking questions that you might know the answer to and feel really dumb asking because everybody should know those things. Like, what does okay mean? And when you say probably, I'm not sure what that is. Those are the easy. But when somebody says, I'm losing lots of money, and you go, what does it mean to lose a lot of money? You kind of feel stupid saying that, but it gives them the control to tell their story. It gives them the control to give you clarification. It gives them control to work within their head to figure things out. Because if I run with my assumption and I go, I know what to do here, it's going to give me a bad outcome. Negative reverse selling. When we first hear negative reverse selling and the pendulum theory and all those things, we hear you got to stay on the negative side of the pendulum. You got to stay on the negative side of the pendulum. And we go, whoa, I can get people to move to the positive if I just go to the negative. No, it's about control. This is a way to give people control by doing an opposite reaction to what they normally hear. It is equally okay when somebody says, I'm going to give you all this business, to go, yeah, I think that's kind of early. You sure you want to do that? Negative side? To go to the positive side and said, well, that's great. You want to sign contracts now? It gives you the same truth, because negative reverse selling is really about truth seeking, which is giving them control and the ability to tell the truth, not about trying to drive an outcome. The principle of okay, not okay is very scary in bonding rapport. When we say, ask permission to ask tough questions. Ask if it's okay to take notes or borrow a piece of paper or take your camera down to do that. If I weaken myself in the eye of the prospect, it should lead to them feeling better. But that's scary because I'm supposed to be the thought leader. I'm supposed to be the example. I'm supposed to be strong and powerful and equal business stature. And now you're telling me, yeah, but if you tried to exert power and control, you're making them feel bad. So it's a way to give them control. If they're feeling good, they're feeling in control. So you've always had these things. So the thought of this can be scary. You know, when we talk about all the things like need for approval, and I say, stop caring what people think about you and be okay with what they think of you has no bearing on whether they buy from you or not. Not caring if they're going to buy from you and being unemotionally involved, giving a lot of control, that's scary. But we know what fear is, and we know that fear is an indicator that something good is about to happen. So this quote, everything you've wanted is on the other side of fear. And most of the things that we do to compensate are compensating for our fear. If I do this, I'll lose the business. If I ask this hard question, they'll be offended. If I don't ask this question, they'll like me better. We don't have the superpower to make people like us or not like us. But it's scary to think that we don't, and it's scary to think, well, if I give control, that will end up in the right place. But it does. You do this anyway. Like if you wanted something, if you go home this weekend and you know what you want for dinner, you do the right things to give control. You do not walk in and go, we're having steak tonight, and that's all we're going to say because I don't care what you think or what your opinion is. You don't do that. You walk in and go, so what do you want for dinner? And they go, I don't know. I don't really care. Oh, you don't care? What if I said steak? And they're like, oh, great. You were in control, yet you gave it away. And if they happen to say, I feel like steak, you're like, that's a great idea. I'm glad you thought of that. I wasn't thinking steak. Perfect. You had control in that situation. You know how to do this. You know, because how many of you are control freaks, honestly? Yeah, look at it. Those of you raise, you're like, no, I like people to control me. You all raise your hand. We are control freaks by our very nature. We came here to gain control. But in the real world, control is gained by giving it. And the more that you experiment with giving control, the easier it is to implement and do these things. So I want to leave you with 3 points here. Have that model in your head. It's a very simple model. If I do something and I get a bad outcome, I'm going to try the opposite thing. And start there with that to see, will it drive the opposite outcome? Second, rules and tactics clue you to do the opposite. They also teach you how to give away control and how to not use things for your benefit. And third, always start with how I give control. And I will tell you in your upfront contracts, the easiest way to do that is to ask people what they want. What do you want to decide in this conversation? What do you want to get out of this? How do I provide value for you? It's still an upfront contract. Give control first and watch what happens. Watch the pressure and the thinking and the ease of this is a salesperson not trying to make me do stuff. Okay? Helpful?
Thank you for watching this highlight video from the Sandler Summit. You can join us for the next Sandler Summit in 2024, March 19th and 20th at the Orlando World Center Marriott. Register now at sandler.com/summit.